Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and we got some footage finally for Project A, or Project Ares, or now we know the name, Valorant. This is going to be my pre-impressions, and this is going to also be sort of like a prequel to many videos where I actually cover and divulge this game's secrets. I'm going to be talking about every little bit of information that we get whenever it's actually hard set. You got a lot of YouTubers who are jumping on the hype train and just kind of regurgitating news, you know, like talking about all the heroes before we even have footage of all the heroes. I'm going to be a little bit more patient, and I'm going to try to be a little bit more critical, more reviewy, and definitely more flavorful when it comes to creating content for this game, so please stay tuned for that. But I do want to approach this game a little bit more harshly, so this is my pre-impressions, and I'm just going to tell you what I'm thinking, and also really what the community overall is kind of airing their voices for. So this is mostly Counter-Strike with magical abilities. Some people think maybe it could be more leaning on Overwatch, maybe it could be leaning somewhere like more uniquely, kind of like Rainbow Six Siege is a more unique experience, or Paladin's pretty unique as well. No, this is Counter-Strike with magical abilities. We've actually heard this from many playtesters, and even though we just got some footage, you're going to see it in the background, and it seems like it's very Overwatch or very Paladin-y. Apparently, the playtesters have said that this footage is more handpicked to really showcase the array of content that could be in the game. This isn't really an indicator proper of what the actual round-to-round gameplay is going to be like. Essentially, this is probably where they're like, hey, everyone, let's save up and let's make sure everyone has all their abilities for the final round. And, you know, like, it's not like a completely staged gameplay. Like, obviously, this is a real match and real people interacting in real time. But I do think that the idea of, hey, we're all going to use our magical abilities on this round or something like that probably was stated. So this is an example of a match that is probably not likely to occur. All these magical abilities constantly going off, I don't think is the design philosophy of this title. Now, things could change, absolutely. I mean, we've seen how Paladins has changed so radically, but in the end, this is a Counter-Strike clone game with magical abilities, and first and foremost, it should feel like that. There's even a separate resource for the magical abilities. So if you guys don't know how this works, basically every character has a main ability that they can use every single match, but then otherwise, you do have an ultimate, which you need to get kills, or you have to earn the objectives, and then so, you know, kind of like kill streaks and stuff like that in Call of Duty. Then you can use that ability. So you have a main primary ability, then you have an ultimate ability, and then there's two abilities that you have options to actually spend money on. You know, you can actually pay for those and use those in a match. Then you also have the resources to buy your shields, buy your different weapons, and all the different weapons look extremely standard. It looks like they're basically just taking Counter-Strike and then adding, well, magical abilities. I wouldn't even doubt if they've probably modded some version of Counter-Strike to kind of test this game out itself. It seems very in line with the concept of Counter-Strike. The map design is near identical in terms of the philosophy, obviously. Actually, they have the designer, one of the designers of making maps for Counter-Strike, doing some stuff here for this game too. And I'm sure Riot has got the, you know, top talent really making this game. So it's kind of tragic to see a lot of people just saying that this game looks like poop. And I'm going to voice my opinion on that. The game, I think, actually looks really clean. I love the colors to an extent, even though it's a little desaturated. I think it's overall kind of, you know, in between. Like if you took Counter-Strike and Paladins, it's in between that, basically. So it might be too fantastic for people who like Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six Siege. Then again, that kind of makes sense. But it also might not be fantastic enough for people who play Overwatch or loved a lot of games like MOBAs or you know, Gigantic or Battleborn. Rest in peace, I guess, guys. But I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy it because this game is a competitive game. It's designed entirely as a competitive game. And I think that with a lot of people who play Counter-Strike, you know, it's an older game and it's actually designed pretty cleanly itself. It's designed without much clutter. You know, it's not Battlefield. It's not the new Call of Duty. These games are meant to run really fast on pretty much just like average machines. Like these games they need to run at minimum, I believe, 128 FPS. So what you're going to need a 120 hertz monitor or 144 hertz monitor. We're going to do a whole video on what machine you actually need to build, or what you need exactly to play this game competitively. But you should be playing this game at 144 hertz. So the game needs to be as clean as possible. So you're going to have really flat smoke effects. You're going to have really just kind of singular textures, singular-ish I'm saying like there's not going to be many layers of the texture, not much like post-processing, things like that. So the game, yeah, it is going to look kind of flat and maybe debatably boring, but it's all about those frames. And I would say Counter-Strike honestly like looks really flat and boring too, but people are able to play it around the world and play it very competitively, very easily. So in a way, it's a double-edged sword, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. For me, I definitely love Overwatch. I played at 144 hertz, so I don't know. I appreciate that game, but I think I can also get in line with this game as well, especially because it happens so quick. You know, the time to kill is so low, everything, every little bit of information, you need to see every little pixel as clearly and cleanly as possible. I kind of get the design philosophy with this one. So another complaint that a lot of people have, though, is on the graphics, I guess, the fantasy elements, the smoke screen, being able to see through walls, all that stuff. Basically, they say the game looks cheesy. So yeah, it can definitely look cheesy in terms of aesthetic, but also gameplay-wise. You know, the smokes are so, like, they completely obscure the game. And the majority of characters apparently have smoke screens, or there's tons of wall hacks. Or if you actually look at the different abilities inside the game, which maybe weren't shown, there's a lot of abilities that are very spy-oriented, like you can throw decoys, or you can actually spawn a shadow of yourself, run out, die, and then you actually respawn, so you have a second life. Just a lot of cheese that kind of allows you to stay alive or see where enemies are. And that's, I mean, maybe in Overwatch, they'd be like, oh, that's usual. But in a game like Counter-Strike, that is something very, very alien. So how do you guys feel about the game moving in that direction? And I feel like initially people were like, oh, that's just cheesy. That's for kids or something like that. And I think a lot of people aren't really seeing the ramifications or the amplification for gameplay. In terms of like what makes Counter-Strike fun, it's a lot of this sightline play and yeah, you know, throwing a smoke and all this play around literally the tactics of the game, and these abilities literally just layer on tactics. As long, in my opinion, as long as the callouts for these ultimates that resurrect, or you know, these abilities that can, which we actually do see, you know, whenever someone does the sonar arrow, we clearly see as the enemy like, oh, they just did a sonar arrow. So maybe we shouldn't rush right now. Maybe we should actually go retreat, and we can even set a trap from this. We can actually play it in our favor. Also, you can destroy the sonar radar. But anyways. It seems that they're kind of designing the game with counterplay in mind, and there shouldn't be any I win buttons, which is something that you actually kind of see in Overwatch and Paladins. They have bigger ultimates, and the game is more team play oriented, so you have more team fights, more just constant kind of mosh pitting. This game's a little bit different, but that could also, yeah, with certain characters, like maybe if you were the support character and you were caught out by somebody who had wall hacks, that might feel pretty bad and that might feel pretty cheesy. But I think with a slight sort of tuning a mentality for some players coming into this thinking, okay, it might be a little bit more team oriented. I don't know how you guys play pickup games in Counter-Strike Go, but overall, I think this game is completely designed for the highest level of play inside of dedicated teams 5 versus 5. Where I think a lot of people who play Counter-Strike, they want to say they're competitive, but they play it in pickup games. And the nature of that game is entirely different. I mean, really, any game is entirely different when you play pickup games. But this title just seems like it's totally oriented around, hey, we're going to be an esport, which I think is a good thing. And that's one thing to talk about. A lot of people kind of calling out a lot of games lately about them, you know, them trying to force esports or whatever, but that's kind of how Riot had redefined esports entirely globally with League of Legends, and I do believe that they're going to do that with Valorant. Whether it's a great game hitting the ground running at the start or not, they are going to make it an esport, and I honestly do kind of trust their balancing to an extent. I think it's probably going to be a decent game because I feel like a lot of the abilities and overall the foundation of this title is just very safe. It's a time where we could totally use a clone for Counter-Strike Go. It's a time where, you know, a lot of people like hero shooters, and it's a time where a lot more people are getting better internet, better PCs. It's just like, this is really just the perfect game to kind of push out right now and actually make as an esport. It's about time that we had a game really proper like this. And again, you could say, oh, well, we have Overwatch, Paladins, Rainbow Six Siege, you know, Quake Champions. We've actually had a, no. All those games are actually very, very different. This is a Counter-Strike successor. Now, here's something. Will it truly succeed, like impede Counter-Strike Go? Are people moving from Counter-Strike to this game? Yes, they are. They are moving from Counter-Strike to this game. Will everyone move? No, because if I'm not mistaken, a lot of people still actually play previous versions of Counter-Strike, and a lot of people still play many older titles. Some people really love kind of the classic pure gameplay of certain titles, such as like, older Quakes or Unreals, if it's like Halo or, like everyone really kind of like falls in love with like one game, and sometimes an additive element, which you could say, oh, objectively, they've added to the game, could somehow ruin it for you. You really liked the fine-tuned balance of this particular game, the gameplay flow in this particular style. So I don't know, some people just want to play what they want to play, and I think Counter-Strike being so historic and being such a, I guess, really, oh my god, well lived in game, I don't think people are going to evacuate the title, but this is definitely a game that should, if everything goes perfectly, on paper, should succeed Counter-Strike Go. It really just seems like Counter-Strike Go, in every way, probably going to run better, a little bit cleaner, and have more mechanics. But of course, those more mechanics could totally disbalance the game, change everything around, and make it very unfun or unfair, So I think I'm pretty excited for this game, even though I'm a projectile player in Overwatch. And while I might be very good at Overwatch, I don't think my skill set is exactly going to translate. And I think a lot of people are a little bit confused if this is the game for them. I mean, if they're good at Counter-Strike Go, then why don't they just go to Rainbow Six or some other tactical game? Of course, they are going to transfer to this, but at the same time, it's like, well, is this really for Overwatch players or is it for Counter-Strike players? And I think it's pretty safe to say now, based on what people who have played it and their feedback, also now looking at the footage here, well, this footage might actually be a bad example, but it seems that in general, this is a Counter-Strike style game, and that's something that I'm hungry for. I didn't really get to play too much Counter-Strike. I'm pretty poor at it. And overall, it just wasn't enough for me, like with fantastic elements. But I think, well, obviously, Valorant is definitely going to be the game that I want to check out. But is it going to be the hypest hype out there? I don't know. I had a lot of faith in Quake Champions as well, and that was a very storied franchise too, with a company that I thought was big enough to support it. But I think the biggest thing, and this is going to be kind of sad saying it, but even if all this stuff was cheesy and unfair, unbalanced, maybe it didn't run that great, the thing is Riot is like a really freaking big company that really knows how to promote esports, and this is a sport. Through and through, I can see all the different abilities, everything about it just screams sport. So it probably will do great. This is probably a great game to jump on if you are a content creator, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. My plans moving forward is hopefully to cast some games. If I have to run, homebrew tournaments, I'm absolutely going to do that. And I'm going to try to be a proper content creator for this game and a few others, but mainly Valorant seems to be really exciting for me. Now, I have a couple of other videos where I'm going to be, I guess, talking and kind of taking apart more of this game, ripping apart maybe like the different types of abilities, the gunplay, things like that. As we learn more and I get to actually play it, I would like to review every little piece of this game and do my reviews episodically. So if you would subscribe to those new episodes of me talking about Valorant with pre-impressions, also you can kind of use those as news sources, a little bit toothier, but still. I want to be talking about this game, what's new, what's happening, is the hype being alive or not? I don't know. But right now, I think it's a kind of a mixed bag with Valorant. Some people, they're saying, well, we got Counter-Strike, we have all these other solid games. I mean, we got Overwatch for the fantasy, which also has a plethora of, amazing FPS mechanics and really cool abilities. So, like, why play this game? Why? I guess that's a good question anybody would have. Why? I mean, I think anybody can admit that Overwatch is good, Counter-Strike is good, we got Rainbow Six Siege is good. Really, where is this game fitting in other than directly competing with Counter-Strike? And do people who play Counter-Strike want to play this game? So why play Valorant? And I think that Riot needs to answer that question, give us lots of good content, and yeah, push that esports scene. So I think immediately the only answer that I have right now is people like me, and likely people like you. This is probably going to be the game that, because it's the new kid on the block, it's the new thing to do, and it looks like it's going to run pretty well, it's probably going to be very competitive, that this is going to be the game that essentially, people who didn't quite fit in with Counter-Strike or don't quite fit in with Overwatch or these other games, this is going to be the time to shine. This is going to be our time to make content, to play the game competitively, and to enjoy, this brand new sport as it's being birthed. That's That's really the answer at the moment that I have. I honestly can't say, you know, too much uniquity is really found in this title, other than the fact that it is a successor to Counter-Strike. But whether it truly succeeds in that sense or not, or goes in a different direction, we have to find out from there. But sorry to end it kind of vaguely. The game just kind of revealed itself, and that's all I got for my pre-impressions. But as we get more information, especially as I play it, I'll be streaming it, covering it, and definitely reviewing every little bit about it. Every time there's a new character or something like that, just like I used to do with Paladins and I used to do for Overwatch. I think it's about time we got back in the swing of things. So yeah, guys, if you want some harsh from the heart content, that's what this channel is about. I'm gonna try to up the production value, but I'm always gonna stay true. Better believe it, boo. Much love, friends and family, and I'll see you in the next one.